Okay, so we are recording because there were some that when we launched this weren't able to make it today. But the other reason that I like that is because you guys can actually go back, and if you don't remember something, it'll be in the recording. So I will tell you all, just like I said in the chat screen, don't take a lot of notes. I will give you when we've got a write down moment. I know there's a lot of people on the call here that have seen this training before. Thank you for coming back, and thank you all for all you do for us and for Aetna. We really do appreciate you attending today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I know that y'all are busy, so we'll get going. So the first thing is this slide right here. The thing that's most important about this slide is the 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women. So what I do here in our training center and in other call centers that I train, I absolutely tell them to track all the men that they talk with and all the women that they talk with. And at the end of the day, if you've not taken care of somebody on cancer, then you at least know who you're leaving exposed to financial devastation of cancer. And then you can go back and call them back, okay? That's not to pick on you. That's to help you. That's to get you very convicted about what you're doing. The other thing that you need to know is that helps you get 3 no's to a yes. So we are going to give you different things throughout this presentation that will get you 3 no's. And if you don't get a yes, then you at least know that that no is on to the next. So we will keep moving these clients along and get the clients taken care of. Those of you that are in the Med Advantage market and write the majority of Med Advantage, this is always the plan that you attach first. And I'm going to go into detail about why that is. And I just saw Casey's dad pop on there. That's awesome. So, okay, here we go. 77% of all cancers are diagnosed in people ages 55 and older. Here's a write down moment. There's a new statistic that Aetna put in the Pace Setter last year that is now going to be in the new brochure, that if you're ordering them now, you should see them. 85% of all cancers are diagnosed in people ages 50 and older. You need to use that stat, and you need to use it a lot. And the reason you need to use it a lot is you're talking to a lot of people that you're already doing some of the spouse in the house exploration for spouse discount, household discount, roommate discount. And when you know that person that's under age 55, they now know that this is a plan that they need to get. And a lot of these people just refuse to buy an Obamacare policy because the cheapest rate they can get it at, if they don't qualify for a subsidy, is around $1,567 for this 57-year-old last open enrollment. I know it seems like it went forever, and it did. It just ended this last weekend. However, people start looking at that as a lot of money, especially if they've not gone into the hospital. And all of a sudden now they figure out maybe I should self-insure a little bit until the worst thing happens. So we always want to make sure we understand the stats. I don't go over heart attack and stroke a lot in this presentation. We do that in another one that we do called the 30, 60, 90 presentation. But if you are selling in the underage markets, meaning the underage 65, you're definitely going to want to show this plan, and you're going to want to show it a lot. These people need this plan for income protection, but they also need the heart attack and stroke benefit as well. So we'll keep going. The next slide, if I can drive here, I call this the conviction slide. So many times clients think, and my client is you, but your client thinks this as well, is that homeowners and auto are filed more than the ones you see in purple. What you need to remember is that it doesn't matter what the stat size is of this pool of people, it's the same customer. So whether it's 1,000 customers, 5,000 customers, 10,000 customers, they're only filing on homeowners and auto 0.04% of the time and 0.06% of the time. Meaning if all of those same customers had the 4 policies to the right, they would file 40% of the time on cancer, 70% of the time on long-term care, or if you've got short-term recovery care in your state, you could look at that as well. Dental 100% of the time, and yes, 1 out of 1 still die. So they are going to file on that final expense. Right, here's what I like to do is answer those folks of you that are writing primarily Med Advantage and worried about scope of appointment. All of the health plans are allowed. So it doesn't matter if you're talking to a client that has a Humana Med Advantage or an Anthem Med Advantage or a United Healthcare Med Advantage, you can still write the Aetna cancer policy, and we've taken care of that for you guys. Now, if they start asking you about life insurance and you're during AEP, you need to just say, hey, that's something I cannot speak about right now. I follow the CMS guidelines. You can contact me at another time that would be more appropriate. And that protects you and the client. Now, I don't like to go over product as much as I like to go over how to sell, okay? So we're going to get into how to sell here just in a minute. And you guys are blowing me away. We have 126 participants on the call today. That is fantastic. I'm so excited that you guys not only want to help yourself, but want to help your clients. That is so amazing. So CHAS 2.0 launched about 2 years ago. It's also called CHAS Plus. But the only differences between CHAS Plus and the original legacy plan is on the CHAS Plus, we now have a 5-year look back. Now, guys, that is a 5-year look back on treatment of cancer, not just when they were diagnosed with cancer, but treatment of cancer. So for those of you that have been in the senior market for a little bit and you're wondering about the female on tamoxifen, yes, that's considered treatment. And we will not be able to write them as long as they're undergoing treatment. Mix and match benefits is another great thing for us because what that basically means is you could write a $20,000 cancer plan with a $5,000 heart attack and stroke. Before we didn't talk about that a lot, but now that I've gotten to talk to more and more agents, we're starting to hear that clients are going into the ER for a TIA and being sent home with an expensive prescription and a home health care prescription. If they have the $5,000 heart attack and stroke, that really works right there. The other thing you've got to remember is that when a person is diagnosed with cancer, the chemotherapy and the radiation does weaken their heart. So keep that in mind as a follow through or a go back. Also, clients that have had heart problems, some of the prescriptions that they're on are more prone to cancer diagnosis. So they do work hand in hand. Recurrence benefit. For those of you that have been an Aflac agent or a Colonial Penn agent at some point in time and didn't like the lump sum because you thought it was one and done, in the senior market, it's totally different. But the good news is we do have a recurrence benefit if you're any the states at the bottom there. Now, what that basically means that if you sold your client a $10,000 cancer plan and they went treatment-free 5 to 7 years, they would be able to claim on the cancer benefit again. What's great about that, not just for your client, but for you, is you're going to continue to get paid your commissions and your renewals. So that's a persistency builder plus. And we have heard from LIMRA, what is fantastic news, is that the more policies that you have in the home with that client, the more they view you as their agent. So that is a really big deal, and please keep that in mind. Now, it is a first diagnosis or lump sum benefit. So what that means is when your client is diagnosed with cancer, they're going to file a pathology report. They're going to get their lump sum amount of money, and they can spend that on whatever they wish. If they want to use it to go out of the country for treatment, if they want to use it for their current doctors, that's fine. It's their money. They get to use it however they wish. The other reason that the lump sum is really good in the senior market is that when that client gets diagnosed, A treatment plan is not that beneficial for them because they're going to have to come back after every treatment, fill out a claim form to get a $200 reimbursement. If you were to divide into a $10,000 a money by 200, it doesn't take a lot of folks to realize that that would be a lot of chemo. And so therefore, the lump sum is really good for the senior market, and they understand it. We've also had a couple of clients file a claim after they had written an insufficient check because they had gone to the oncology clinic, had to have radical treatment for prostate cancer or colon cancer, and then they were able to take their cancer policy into the oncology clinic and use that as collateral to keep getting their treatment. Another thing that you need to remember about that's so important is that oncology clinics don't have charitable funds like hospitals. They're in the business of oncology, which means chemotherapy and radiation. And when your client tells you that they can't afford $30 a month, then you know they can't afford $7,550 out of pocket. So you need to make sure that you're really doing a really good job of presenting the plan in a very simple method. And we've got some really good tools for you guys in this presentation that will show you how to do that. And as always, you all know how to get hold of me now. Make sure you send me your objections, issues you're having on the phone. If you want to send me a calibration call or a recorded call out of your CRM, send that to me. And I'll be happy to listen to it and tell you where I think you may have missed something, because that's going to be very valuable for you as time goes on. Now, benefit amounts are $5,000 to $75,000, which I'm going to show y'all how to use a rate sheet, and it's going to show $10,000 to $50,000. But remember, $5,000 to $75,000. If they can't afford $10,000, $5,000 is better than nothing. And a lot of the kiddos that pop off their parents' plans at 26, if you've used your CRM correctly, you can get a lot of those kiddos at $75,000. Issue ages 18 to 89 is so beneficial for you when you're in the selling process. You'll see a lot of this deck shows for agent use only, but there's going to be pages throughout this that you can use in the selling presentation, and I'll show you what those are. But Aetna's philosophy is to keep these rates locked in. And the reason we know that on the cancer, heart attack, and stroke plan is because when you buy $10,000 today, whenever you claim on this policy, it's going to be the same $10,000 you purchased. So there's no inflation driving the rates on this plan. So you can feel very comfortable in telling your clients that. Unisex rates is another great thing. Easy to quote. If you don't have quotes on the go on your mobile device, that application is in the Android store and the Apple store as well. It's purple, and just put quotes on the go. Sometimes you have to put hyphens in there, but that's really good for you to have with you. I still kind of like the old-fashioned way. I print off the sheet so it's in front of me. But make sure that you have that so you can kind of tell your client if it's going to be $1 to $2 a day. Now, no additional premium for tobacco users. This was a great gift for me. My dad, as some of you know, the reason I love this plan, my dad was diagnosed with cancer at 52 years of age. My story is at the end of this presentation. So if you don't have a story, feel free to use my story because what's mine is yours. But my dad was a heavy smoker. And tobacco users and vapors are so totally used to being rated up now. And the American Heart Association actually says vapors may have a worse time than regular tobacco users. But, you know, who knows? It could be either or. It could be both. And we want to make sure we take care of them. So right now, there's no question. There's no rate up. And I don't know if y'all have looked at a package of cigarettes in a while, but it doesn't say it may cause cancer anymore. It says it does. So these people are fully aware. But you know what? In their time, I don't like giving excuses, but smoking was glamorized. These people watched Andy Griffith and I Love Lucy. And, if you watch AMC movies or anything like that on the weekend, you see they chain smoke one right after another. So we want them to know we want to take care of them. Individual and spouse and family rates is huge. This is the only product in the Aetna family that the youngest spouse determines the rate. And we'll show you how to use that on the rate sheet, where you will literally go from zero to hero in a very quick minute. Very little additional premium to add the kiddos. Always add the kiddos on. One of the things that we get most often is when a male is diagnosed with testicular cancer or Hodgkin's lymphoma in that 18 to 30-year-old bracket, and he wasn't added onto the policy. And the parents want to file the claim. They get the same benefit as the parents. It's just a no-brainer to add it. And when you see the rates, you'll see why. Again, I always joke, if you're from Arkansas, you're still our friend, but we're right there at that border. Doesn't matter if you have 1 or 19 like the Duggars. It's the same price. The kids are going to be covered, and they're all going to be covered at the same benefit amount. And I'll also show you how to use the 64 to 65-year-old to get urgency, because cancer is not prejudiced. It doesn't discriminate on age. It doesn't care when you turn 65. So when you're writing that client and he is getting ready to turn 65, you put his cancer plan into effect immediately, because that automatically gets you a client. When you post date it to the MedSup, if that client gets cancer anytime during the time you wrote it, and when that policy goes into effect, he's got no cancer benefit. And we've had that happen many times. So I want to make sure you're reminded of that. Now, don't forget about the legacy plan. The legacy plan brought us to the dance. When we designed this plan for Aetna in 2013, they were writing right around $850,000 a year. They're writing around that a month these days. And that's because of agents like you. My dad may have lost the battle with cancer, but because of people like you, he wins the war. We are saving people from the financial devastation that killed my dad. It wasn't the cancer that got him so quick. It was the worry about how to provide for his family. So I want all of you to know that about your family members, your friends, because I know this is a very sensitive subject. And I don't know how many of you on the call that may have that. I had a scare 5 years ago, and I will tell you that Good Friday was a great Friday once I found out it wasn't the case. But I was so blessed because I had an ACA plan where MD Anderson was not in the network. But I had $90,000 of cancer insurance. And y'all, for years, I told people, you're going to get mad when you get diagnosed, but you're not going to be mad at me for spending $1 a day and have this great cancer protection. But I've never had a client yet, y'all, call me and say, Gaylan, I'm so mad. I've been spending $1 a day and I haven't got to claim on that cancer policy. They are just grateful they didn't get cancer. So that's another way to lock up that sale. Now, the plan is currently available in 45 states. I need to go back one moment. The only real difference between the CHAS 2.0 or the CHAS Plus and the legacy plan is instead of a 5-year look back on treatment, it's 10. We don't have a mix and match benefit. So if a client takes $20,000 of cancer and he wants heart attack and stroke, it has to be the same amount. You don't have to write the heart attack and stroke, but they have to be the same amount. And then third, there's no reoccurrence benefit. Okay. So again, back to enrollment options. You have to be on the Aetna SSI side, which is the side that Medicare supplement is written on. Just check with your upline if you don't have that contract. I promise you, you need to play around in the sandbox. If I can't break the e-app, I know you can't, because while I love to talk and sell and educate, I'm not the best when it comes to technology. As y'all know, I'm great at social media, but technology, yeah, I lack a little there. But some have our strengths and some have our weaknesses, and that's mine. And I'm sure some of you type A people can relate. So this is the e-app. So if you're writing a Med Advantage with Aetna and you're in the Ascend program, you have to log out of that and then log in to the Aetna SSI site. Now, the cool thing about what this did last year during COVID, it got so many of our face-to-face agents realizing that selling over the phone is easy. I just don't leave you high and dry after this training. I will give you some scripting to use with your clients. We will actually post that on Queen of the Bundle very soon. But it's really 3 questions, and it's really just calling in and checking on your clients, making sure that they have their cards in a nice, safe place. Number 1. Number 2, that their kiddos know where to find those cards in case they're rushed by ambulance to a hospital. They know where to get those. But number 3, to admit what you don't know. Come back and say, hey, I just went through this great training. I found out about a product that I didn't know existed, and I really want to talk to you about it because I don't want you having sleepless nights. I don't want you to be out $7,550 times once, times 2, if you get caught in that situation. So let me go over that with you. And I will tell you, when you use questions that start with, who did you know? What happened to that person? What can we do to keep you from being in that person's situation? That keeps your clients engaged. When you say, do you want a cancer plan? All they heard was, do you want cancer? One of the things that we've got a really good friend on this call about that I gave her a tip a while back was to ask the clients, who did your agent put your cancer protection with when they enrolled you in that Med Advantage plan? They will immediately go, well, I don't think I have cancer protection. I'm just out 0 premium. No, I'm talking the out of pocket. If you get diagnosed with cancer, you're responsible for the first 20% of the chemo radiation. Now, if you've got a client that is on a Humana 3500 or a Humana 2500, they may be out $2,500 or $3,500. Depending on how the PPO works, it could be times 2. If they're in a give back program, the way that you handle that presentation is very simply this. We have 0 premium still, but the company had to remove some benefits. So they're giving you some give back dollars, but we need to invest it in building your benefit package first. And then if there's money left over, then it's yours. But we want to build you the best package. And guys, what y'all need to remember when you're talking to your clients, it never gets cheaper than that day. Their med sup may when they turn 68 if they can qualify for underwriting, but the rest of the package will not, okay? Because they're locking in at those issue ages. So really make sure you educate and inform. Now, here's how to use the rate sheet. And I always call this the 0 to hero. Sasha, I see you smiling kind of right there. Here's how this works. So if you've got this client right here that's turning 65, again, cancer is not prejudice. If you post date that the same date as their Med Advantage or their Med Sup, it would cost them $29.58 for that $10,000. If you write them while they're still 64, it's $25.50. So you're saving them $5 a month times 12 months, which is $60. You're basically saving them 2 months of premium by putting it in force immediately. And once again, Mr. Jones, cancer is not prejudice. It doesn't discriminate age. It could happen 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 4 months from now. We want to make sure you're protected. Now, we also talked about using, hey, Mel, the youngest spouse in the house, okay? So my husband loves when I do this. I love it even better because I'm 10 years younger than him. But he's 68 and I just turned 58. Now, for $10,000 for him would be $29.58. Because he did so well in marrying me, as y'all all know, it went to $38.90. Okay. So for only $9 more a month, yes, that's a write down moment. For only $9 more a month, we both get $10,000. But because a lot of people in that 55 to 64 age bracket are not taking an ACA plan because they can't qualify for a subsidy, they refuse to spend $1,500 a month. And we saw a lot of subsidy changes this last open enrollment. We saw some for the better. We saw some for the worst. It was all over the gamut. However, This is the time to talk to that youngest spouse. And I'm going to show you guys something when we get to prescription drugs. So hang in there with me, because you're going to see why you may want to write her 20 or 30,000 at that time. Now, remember what I said about the kiddos. Doesn't matter if there's 1 or 19. That $38.90 goes to $40.35. So that's why you automatically add the kiddos. You don't ask them, do you want to add the kiddos? You add the kiddos. But for those of you that do not have a CRM that records calls or keeps track of things, get in touch with me after this and I'll refer you a Dynamo. However, you want to have a really good CRM, because when this kiddos turn 26, Aetna's sending them a letter that says, congratulations for being 26 years old. You get to get $10,000 now for the low price of $542. You want to write that kiddo the $50,000. He's less than $1 a day. $75,000 is barely over $1 a day. He may be married. Time to add the wife on. When they have kiddos, all you got to do is get the first kid on there, and then all the kids will be at the same price. So that's very, very important to keep track of that. Okay. The other thing I know about kids is that when you can show them that you're saving him $100 a month over his daddy, because his daddy waited way too long, they all love feeling that they're a little bit smarter. Okay. So use these rate sheets to your advantage. The rate sheets are approved pieces and can be used in your presentation. These are the legacy rates. I'm not going to go over that in the presentation. Now, we are trying to keep all of this simple for y'all. You know, we used to say, keep it simple, beep, you know. So now we say, keep it simple, sweetie. But we're going to give you a sheet at the end of this presentation that you can put up in front of you to keep it precise. I'm telling you guys how the watch is made. You're going to tell your clients more what time it is. But a lot of this education needs to be built in. Now, when you're going down the exploration road with your client, you know, their one and only guaranteed issue open enrollment, in my opinion, really should be with a Medicare supplement. But there are some agents that have a different point of view. There are some clients that have a different point of view. But either way, explaining the weaknesses gets you a sale. It gets you a client, because you are now driving your clients to a path where they have to make a choice. Again, Medicare, Medicare supplements, Med Advantage, all of those are enrolled. Cancer plans are sold. So you're going to have to bring it up. It is up to you to do your job. No one can do your job for you, and it's in your best interest to do your job. It keeps you from having a CMS complaint. It keeps you from having an E&O claim, because you know that you've explained all this. And we have a call center in Florida we work with where an agent tried to convince an MA client to take the cancer plan. He said, nope, I just want the bare bones, nothing else. Then he all of a sudden calls the agent up and says, hey, remember when you sold me that cancer plan? Well, guess what? That call was recorded, and he was able to play that back for the client and the insurance company. But what was even better about that, you guys, is he uses that in every one of his presentations now. And that's how he sells cancer plans. So you will find stories that become your stories that will get your clients more convicted. There's not a better time than to practice this presentation than lock-in, okay? So really quick on Med Advantage, it's simple. There's two things to remember. The large out-of-pocket for chemo and radiation, 20%, you read it in the disclosures every time. When you're reading down that disclosure, that's where you're going to say, hey, remember, I told you I have a solution for this 20%. And I'm going to get that information from you before we get off this phone call. Now, one of the things that I found out from an actuary last week that was very interesting is that during 2020, more Med Advantage clients, or prior to 2020, more Med Advantage clients were prescribed oral chemo, where more Medicare supplement clients were prescribed administered chemo. because of the way their plans are designed. Okay. We know hospitals do it every day when you ask about a cash discount, right? So it's the same concept. So again, we went over the different types of Med Advantage plans, but remember, not everybody gets diagnosed with cancer on January 1st and finished with chemo December 31st. That's a write down moment for you, because that's at the point where you ask a client if they truly can afford their zero premium plan. And they are going to literally say, well, what do you mean? It's zero. You're going to come back and say, well, it's not zero if you have to pay the $7,550. It's not zero if you have to pay for your PPO plan times 2. So you need to divide whatever they're going to be out of pocket by 12, because that is truly what their zero premium plan is going to cost them if they're part of that 85% risk factor. And when you keep talking to a client and they say, well, just can't afford that, just can't afford that, well, then you need to come back and say, okay, I've heard you. Remember 3 no's. Who's going to pay that for you? Maybe your son or daughter would rather pay $1 a day than pull it out of their 401k. A lot of people ask me why I create rhymes like that, because I want seniors to retain what I'm telling them. So when you literally say that to them and you say, can we get them on the phone? Because how many times have y'all heard, hey, I need to check with my son. I need to check with my daughter before I proceed. I need to check with my husband. I need to check with my wife. Well, let's get them on the phone and let's talk about this. Because at this point, y'all have already invested 45 minutes in the call. You might as well get your money's worth, because you're not going to get the sale if you do not have the decision maker on the phone with you. This is where I like to encourage you to sell like you buy. Treat these people like you would treat your mother or father, your grandmother or grandfather, because that is truly the way I sell. I took care of my mom after my dad passed away. And I will tell you that I tried to get her on a cancer plan. But every time we tried to go there, another melanoma popped up. So trust me when I tell you, you want to get that decision maker on the phone. So the other big thing that I get asked right here is what amount do I start with? Well, we always say for a Med Advantage client, you start at $20,000, and a Medicare supplement client, you start at $15,000. The other question is, Gaylan, how come all these agents write hospital indemnity before this? Well, my transparent answer for most of you that know me is they're lazy and they're afraid to bring up cancer, because hospital indemnity covers all illnesses, but the financial exposure to the client is not worth the money invested. That's why the government didn't like hospital indemnity plans. That's why I ended up suing the government along with Manhattan Life, and we won. And that's why we have hospital indemnity today. But it was because these clients were investing $900 a year for a plan that they weren't seeing the value in. Well, on cancer, they'll never pay more into what they're going to get out of it if they claim on it. And that's very, very important. Dave Ramsey used to not like cancer plans because he didn't believe in the ROP. He doesn't believe that you use insurance for investment purposes if you cannot save money. Once he found out that ROP was not in these plans, he liked it, because then he was like, this is just insurance. And in this low interest rate environment we're in today, your seniors are going to see the benefit of investing $1 a day in this plan. Now, those of you that have been doing this for a little while, and I've seen some of your faces, some of you have improved your income 30% by adding on cancer, dental, vision, and hearing, short-term recovery care. Some of you barely got on the curve last year, but you're starting to see your checks go up. The more you protect your prospect and policyholder, you're protecting your persistency, which protects your paycheck. And that's what my job is. My job is to help you to help your client so that your pay is protected. Now, this is a perfect example of why I said what I said about hospital indemnity. MedAdvantage does a great job when you're in the hospital. But so many people last year didn't get to go to in the hospital for a lot of things because of COVID. So on a $117,000 heart surgery, quadruple bypass, this client would only be out $1,450. Hospitals have charitable funds. They can write off $1,450 in a New York minute. A child can figure out $1,450. That's around $130 a month. What they can't figure out is $7,500, maybe times once, times two, plus drugs. So when we get to drugs on drugs on MedAdvantage, it's the same for MedSup. MAPDs and standalone PDPs work identically. One's just integrated, one's a standalone. So if I know one thing about living with a senior, they know exactly when they hit the donut hole. They almost have it timed, okay? But the donut hole is not what hurts the client. It's the catastrophic threshold. I used to ask a trick question. What is the max out of pocket on a PDP? And I would have everything from $10 to $5,000. So I save everybody from embarrassment now. And I say there is no max. It's a trick question. They're always going to pay 5%. Okay. So the only thing that might change on this client right here, they might need twice the Nexium because of what chemo does. So keep that in mind. Another thing about this slide right here, and some of this you guys can read in your own time, but that third bullet, prices for 54 orally administered cancer drugs shot up 40% from 10 to 18. This doesn't include 2020's numbers, when more oral chemo was prescribed than any other year because of compromised immunosystems. But what we're really trying to do for our clients, we may not be able to eradicate all of their cost, but we're trying to minimize the out-of-pocket, them running through their savings account. You've also got to remember about these drugs, especially the heavy-duty chemo. These folks are being prescribed anti-nausea medications. All are generic, but they're not your $4 generics. They're your $400 a pill generic, and they're extensive because they want that chemo to stay in the system. That's how they can get rid of it. Now, this slide right here is one that you can use with your clients. It shows right here only one time where the donut hole was more money than the catastrophic threshold. If you've been in the senior market any time at all, you know about Revlimid. It is also used as a maintenance drug. So some of these people could be put on this drug for the rest of their lives. And we've heard of that. So Revlimid right here, this client would be out $14,461 for the year. That includes their donut hole out of pocket and their catastrophic threshold. Now, one of the things that we always say in this presentation is something is better than nothing. So sometimes you may have to start a client on $5,000, but when they tell you they can't afford a $30 monthly premium, they cannot afford a $75.50 out of pocket. So you need to immediately say, well, I don't feel good recommending you in a zero premium. We need to go back to the plan in, and we need to see what your budget really is. And what I teach agents to do when they start the call is, what is your health insurance budget? Now that you're going into retirement, what is your health insurance budget? You'll get everything from I don't know, none of your business, I'll figure it out, I'm not paying for it. Then you go to, well, what have you been paying? And at that moment is when you find out if they've had health insurance the last few years. And if you can't get an answer then you ask them, well, what is your income going to be in retirement? I need to know these things so I can design you a good package so you'll keep it. I don't want to build you a package that you're going to lapse. So when and if you need to drop coverage because of budget, you call me. You know, the best thing that happened to our business, y'all, was when they took the question for ESRD off MedAdvantage. You can put a client on MA anytime, but you can't always put them on a Medicare supplement. So now you're taking them down to a choice close. All right, so next slide. This is for the agent out there, and maybe some of you were on the call, that think if a client has an F, a G, an N, a C, and a PDP, they're well taken care of. That couldn't be further from the truth. This is a common law married couple in Mississippi. Some of you have heard this. Lonsurf is for a serious colon cancer. It can only be taken 3 months at a time. They didn't get married because of their income differential. She made more than he did. Y'all have heard that many times. He made $875 a month. His catastrophic threshold was $1,295. So he was out of pocket 4 months of income. You cannot think for your clients. Your clients, 24% of them are living off Social Security alone. So we've got to protect them. Now, that underage 65 person, spouse in the house, their drugs aren't required to be on a formulary like seniors. A lot of times agents don't think all the drugs are on formulary because they're $1,295. They're on formulary. It's just that's what they owe. This particular drug at the time was not on formulary. So if I pull up to the CVS Health window, I'm told I got to pay $25,900. You know, my husband heard this presentation the first time. He said, they can just put me in a pine box. I know some of y'all can relate to that. But I said, well, what if it's me? What if it's your kid? Well, you saw the facial expression totally changed. You would be surprised at how many people under age 65 do not have 6 months of savings in the bank. Now, this is probably my least liked slide in this presentation because agents, for the most part, don't know what direct and indirect medical costs mean. Neither do your clients when you sell off of a brochure. But the easy way to explain it is if it's direct, Medicare pays for it, your MedSup pays for it. If it's indirect, your Medicare doesn't pay for it, nor does your MedSup. And that's usually travel and lodging. That's the hospital that they want to go to. Experimental treatment. Remember, they can use that money for whatever they want. We've had clients use it for Ubers because they didn't have a loved one in the area. Now, being the type A personality I am, and I'm watching the time, all the data for the next slide is built here. But the thing I want to point out is that rental cars are a lot more expensive today than they were when we did this slide. I mean, I paid $195 a day in Springfield, Missouri about a month ago. The hotels or motels that are connected to hospitals are not paid for by Medicare. The one at MD Anderson is managed by Marriott International, so they want their money. So this slide right here is a prostate treatment situation. New Orleans traveling to MD Anderson in Houston, 8 to 9 weeks. Again, no food is in here and rental car is priced low. If they go by themselves by car, which they're probably not going to do, or they take somebody with them, it's 6,200 buckaroos. If they fly by themselves, it's 9,160. Take somebody with them, 11,160. So MedSup, we start at 15,000 and work our way down. Now, again, y'all have heard me talk about $1 a day. Most clients, after they've heard this, do not want to self-insure. That's what this slide is. So basically what we're asking them to do is spend $1 a day and use Aetna's money instead of their money. Those of you that are not in the ACA marketplace, this slide is for you. Those of you that are already know the bad news. Most of the clients in the 50 to 64 age group that can't qualify for a subsidy are in a bronze with an 8150 out of pocket. Networks are incredibly skinny. You heard my story. No MD Anderson when I had my scare. Prescription medications do not have to be covered by the ACA plan formularies. But Google how many people under age 40 have 6 months of savings in the bank. In the underage market, we call these income protection policies. I serve at the Ronald McDonald House, and it blows me away how many people I talk to that say they can't believe the government hasn't told them about these policies. I said, the only one you need to be mad at is your agent. They know these plans exist. The government is not an insurance agent. Joe Namath is not an insurance agent. You know, he played good football for a while. He was a great pitch agent for a while. He did Brill Cream for a while, but he doesn't have an insurance license. and he's tricking these people up and he confuses them in the senior market. So what I love to say is let Joe do his job and I'll do my job. Okay, so now, again, more points for you that are not in the under age 65 to just get you a little refresher course there. This is the recap to have in front of you. So you can keep it simple and sweet while you're talking to your clients. Just tell them what time it is. They don't need to know how the watch is made. Again, these policies are sold, not enrolled. Who do you know? What happened? How many of your friends have had this happen? You have to start the conversation, but get rid of, do you want cancer with that? It's not like McDonald's or Wendy's. This doesn't taste good like French fries. You've got to ask the hard questions in a way that they'll respond. Spouse in the house is a perfect opportunity. And also, we know the more business this client has with you, the better it is. But lock-in is the best time to practice your presentation. Use your book of business. There's not a cheaper lead, nor is there a better lead for you. You already established trust with them once, and calling them back shows them how honest you are by saying, hey, just went through this training. I want to share it with you while it's fresh. Again, don't be afraid to use, can you afford that zero premium product, especially if that's not your MA client. It's a great credibility buster. There's several pros on this call that used it last year that called me to brag about it. I see her shaking her head. She knows. So use the $1 a day. If they have a treatment or scheduled benefit plan that they brought with them out of retirement, they can keep those. But again, you're going to find seniors that are going to drop them because they don't want to come back and fill out a claim form just to get a $200 reimbursement. They want to hear from you, especially last year. During COVID, a lot of these clients weren't hearing from anyone. So call them up, visit with them, reestablish your appointment for this next open enrollment. Again, if you're calling that turning 68 market and they can qualify in underwriting and you can save them money, now they can get a 2-4. Most of the time they can get a cancer and a Medicare supplement for the same price they were paying with the rate increases. Remember, Plan N is going to have very little rate increases. Now, there's always going to be benefits to your clients, but don't forget what's in it for you. When you start adding these clients on, this is what you can expect in income. And you can do the same thing for dental, vision, and hearing, same thing for short-term recovery care, same thing for all the different products you offer. Now, this right here is the top cancer facilities in the country. Great talking points. If a client gets cancer, they may have to move where their adult children live. They got to pay to get there. So this is another benefit. For those of you that don't have a story, well, now you do. You've got mine. This is a partnership. Like some of you heard me say at 8% Nation, I don't have downlines, I have partners. And we're in this together, and I want to help you any way I can. So I'm going to check the chat and try to get all the questions answered. So y'all keep going, and we'll get it there. Well, I'm not going to do where everybody's from because that's just not going to be helpful today, but I'm glad y'all were friendly. That's awesome. Let's see what we've got here. I also appreciate all y'all's sweet comments. That's so nice. Okay, here we go. We're coming down. Okay. Let's see. So melanoma. Let me talk about this. We have another agent on the call that I proved a believer when I told her that I knew more than some of the underwriters. So here's the way it works. If it's a topical skin cancer, and it's shaved off and it didn't penetrate and it's not internal cancer, it doesn't count against them getting the policy, but it also will not have a claim paid on it. But if it is melanoma, that is an internal cancer and that will be paid. But you have to wait 5 years or 10 years, depending on the state, from the last treatment. The waiting period for the plans is 30 days. So if you wrote them with an August 1 effective date, they would be covered for September 1. There is a 2-year contestability period. And what that basically means is that when they file a claim, the underwriters are going to request medical records, and they're going to make sure that no fraud was committed, because that's how we keep our rates around $1 a day. So those are the 2 waiting periods that you have to worry about. TIA is a mini stroke. I know we've got some young folks on the phone, new to the business, and we've got a lot of acronyms in this business. So thank you for asking that question, because you don't know what you don't know. I've already answered the waiting period. We did skin cancer. The rates, Aetna's philosophy is that these are locked in. Again, if they buy $10,000 today, there's no inflation tied to this. There have been competitors that have had to have a rate increase because they did the old bait and switch. So they brought them in at a really low rate, lower than Aetna, just to double their rates. So we are very conservative. We're Aetna. We've been doing this a very long time. And when we launched CHAS 2.0, our rates actually went down. So that's why I'm totally comfortable in telling you guys that philosophy. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate your nice comment there. If you watch anything on Netflix, smoking is still glamorized. I love that comment because it's true. If the children are already adults, can you still add them? They have to be a student and living in the household. If they're a student not living in the household, that's okay because they're a student. 26 is the age. So that's that answer. Gave y'all the waiting period. Oh my goodness. I have 2 cousins who had cancer when they were teenagers, 1 testicular and 1 thyroid. Will they be eligible for cancer policies? If they can answer the question for 5 years treatment free, or 10 years if they're in one of the legacy plan states. Always 5 years look back on treatment. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that you were diagnosed with leukemia 4 years ago at 35 years of age. Those are the stories that sell this plan, you guys. And like I said, my dad may have lost his battle, but he wins the war every day. And kudos to you for winning the war as well. I love Renee Shannon. She is so positive about telling her story. Got $75,000. Thank you for sharing that. What is the time frame required in the policy to file a claim after diagnosis? Here's the thing. I believe it's 30 days. You can always go back and forth, but I think you have to file the claim within 30 days of diagnosis. But they may have changed that in CHAS 2.0. So that's where I'm going to take my own advice, and I'm going to say IDK, and I will report back to you guys. I don't know is valuable if you don't know. Thank you, Malia Rogers. Love having you on this call and taking one of these plans. I loved doing this for their local Association of Health Underwriters, and she told me she was immediately going to take a plan, and she stayed true to word. Nothing's a silly question. I feel sort of stupid for asking. So say I offer a cancer policy and 2 months later, someone's diagnosed with cancer. Is this an immediate payout? Is there a waiting period? Again, there's a 30-day waiting period. 2-year contestability. They're going to send off medical records. The claim that happened in our office, the gentleman went and got his own medical records and had those sent directly to the company to speed it up, and Aetna paid on it within 30 days of receiving those medical records. In case grandma's diagnosed with cancer and it slips her mind she has the cancer policy and does not file a claim until 30 months later, is the claim rejected? Again, I don't know. I will follow up on that for you guys. I think I know the answer, but I don't want to confuse the issue. So I'll come back to that, Dixon. Where do you get this $10,000 to $50,000 price sheet? Go to your portal and download the rate booklet, and you'll see it there. Also, quotes on the go. Are premiums going up by age bracket? No, ma'am. Issue age rates. Thank you for answering the pricing sheet question there. Any idea when California is going to get on board? Well, I am still trying to get in front of the insurance commissioner there. I want to clarify what that means for a lot of the multi-state licensed people on the call. And I know some of you have to go, and that's fine. I'm just trying to get all the questions answered so they'll be on the recording. So what happens there is California will let you buy up to 64 and a half, but you have to have credible coverage. So that means you have to have either an ACA plan or a group plan or some kind of health insurance that qualifies. They do not write 65 and above, which is an absolute tragedy because there's more Med Advantage in California than any other state in the union. I am not going to give up on California until the insurance commissioner tells me to go pound sand. So I belong to an insurance commissioner group. And I've got the former NAIC pounding her door right now. So New Jersey's the same way. However, you can write after 65 in New Jersey, but you do have to have credible coverage. Okay. I just want to make sure I understand. You can talk about the cancer rider on same day you sell an MAPD. First of all, this is not a rider. Don't sell cancer riders, sell cancer policies. When you add a rider on a hospital indemnity plan, they're going to lapse that hospital indemnity and they're not going to have cancer coverage any longer. So always write a separate plan. It's the same premium. Yes, you are exempted because it says so in scope. Before you can go down the road with a Med Advantage plan, you have to get scope anyway. So you will see it on the Aetna scope of appointment. Yep. So thank you for answering that for me. Let's see. One thing y'all need to put in your presentation is that I'm always going to abide by CMS guidelines. I always want to abide by CMS guidelines. If you ever have to return to a CMS or to a compliance person, a recorded call, and you've said that 4 or 5 times, there's nothing that those insurance companies love better that you're saying you want to abide by CMS guidelines, because you do. You can get in big trouble if you don't. Can you add family members later? You can. If you've written a husband and wife, you can add the kiddo. They will just adjust it for that family policy. And that's very, very easy to do. If you want to add additional dollars, like you wrote them a $30,000 plan, and you want to add on 20,000 more, you do have to write a new plan for that because you don't want that other 30,000 subjected to the new waiting period. So the rates are locked in for 5 years at a time. No, they are locked in when you write it. There's no 5 years. It's just locked in when you write it. Locked in for life. It's not guaranteed it's locked in for life in the policy language because hospital indemnity plans don't let you file it that way. However, like I've said, these plans are non-reliant on inflation. So at the end of the day, 10,000 is worth 10,000. So I think I answered the 64 to 65. So when you write them at 64, they get that 64 age rate for the rest of their life. Amazing. I've never seen a cancer policy with rates locked in for life. What CRM do you use that they can record calls? So I love Eric Fierro, and everybody on this call knows I love Eric Fierro. He is the best in the business. He has senior sales coach, I think is what it's called. He's amazing. Send and rate through Aetna record calls, which is perfect. How much does 20% equal in dollars? Well, it depends on the plan design. If they have give back dollars, it's going to be $7,550. If they have a PPO, it could be twice the amount, the minimum amount, or it could be the actual amount in that HMO or that network. Guaranteed renewal, but not with rates locked in. Yes, it's guaranteed renewable. Okay, another thing, you can write up to age 89, but they get to keep the policy for however long they're alive. Okay, so need clarification from Gaylan. People are saying rates are locked in, others aren't. Okay, I've explained that several times. I will say it one more time. This is not tied to inflation. So the rate you write this at is the rate you're going to have. I wrote myself when I was 25 years old. So I'm not going to tell you how old I am today. Most of y'all know, but I've never had a rate increase on any of the cancer policies I have. So I know that to be absolute fact. And I know Aetna's philosophy. I sit with these actuaries all the time. A cancer policy that is guaranteed renewable and non-cancelable, then the rates are locked in. I don't really know what you mean by that, but I think I've explained that over and over. This would be very helpful for ACA clients. You are absolutely right. In case grandma is diagnosed with cancer, we've already answered that. Somebody put that in twice. Okay, let's see. Always better to have more CHAS than hospital indemnity. We do a 30, 60, 90, and Mandy is getting ready to announce some good news of all the trainings that we've got coming up. And Spouse in the House and 30, 60, 90 is coming up the last week of August, I believe. Our unfortunate story is that my grandson was born with stage 3 cancer, no coverage for him. That's heartbreaking. And that question has come up before, and I'm going to follow up with you on the family rate on that. So I'll get that back to everybody. If someone has had cancer, do they still qualify at the same rate? Yes, there's no rate up if they've had cancer. They just have to be treatment free. There are more questions on the heart attack and stroke, but controlled high blood pressure for 1 year is good. I hear y'all about New York. I'm trying my best. Thank you, Mel. Appreciate your compliments there. What age does a person need to be eligible for recovery care? Check your portal. It's different by state. Let's see. I think we're good. If they can only afford $10,000 in CHAS and no HIP, it's always CHAS. Always CHAS. Let's see. Yep, we got it right on the 26-year-old. If you missed the first 15 minutes, don't worry about it. We're going to post the recording. That's the last of this. Okay, I think I've got it all. Thank you, Zach and Sasha, for putting Eric Fierro out there. I know he loves it. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today. I'm sorry I went over. Hey, Jerry Taylor. But it looks like we only went 9 minutes over. Maybe I'm right on target. Actually, I'm right on target. It's just now 3:00. Y'all have a great week. Anything I can do, please let me know. Reach out to me on Queen of the Bundle with any questions you've got. You need private